So in this series of videos on Indian DPDP Act, let's talk about the role of a data fiduciary in an organization which is going to process personal information of any user. Welcome to my YouTube channel where you have been watching new content on data privacy every day, and as I mentioned, we are going to talk about the role of data fiduciary in the Indian DPDP Act in this video. So before getting into the exact role of fiduciary, let's have a quick relook at the basic terminologies that we have around the reason why we have the DPDP Act. What are we talking of when we are talking of privacy? It's all about taking care of personal data, right? What is a personal data? Any piece of information that helps you identify an individual. His name, his address, his phone number, his email ID. Sometimes you may need a combination of information, broadly a combination of information with the name of the person, because name otherwise is generally not unique, right? So name and address give you identify a person. Name and phone number helps you identify a person. So all these kind of things are his personal data. His personal data includes his banking, his biometric, his healthcare, his genetics, his religious belief, right? So a single piece of information or a combination of pieces of information that help you identify an individual are personal data. And if the loss or misuse of any of these personal data harms an individual, then we call that as a sensitive personal data. For example, if I lose my financial information, anyone can misuse my credit card. If I lose my forensics, fingerprint, thumb impression, the misuse could be any, because I can't even change my thumb impression again, right? So that's sensitive personal data. And then we have a term called processing of information or processing of data. So processing of data, there are 5 processes under the umbrella. These processes are collecting personal data, storing personal data, using someone's personal data, disclosing, that is commonly known as sharing personal data, and destructing or deleting someone's personal data. So these are the 5 processes, and if in case your organization is doing any of these with any personal information, actually even including your own staff members, which any organization does, then you are liable to be following the best practices around data privacy and get into compliance with Indian DPDP Act, provided you are processing digitized data for Indian citizens, right? Of course, the process has to be specific, explicit, and with legitimate purpose. So that's about the basic definitions of what data and data processing is. Then we come on to what is a data principal. A data principal is the person whose information is being processed, right? You open my bank account, take my name, my address, my phone number. That's my personal information. You process it and create a bank account for me. That's called then I am called the data principal. If there's a child whose bank account is being opening, then you always, traditionally also you've been including the name of the parent or the guardian along with it under guardianship, right? So child less than 18 in India, under guardianship. Disabled person who cannot take his own decisions or cannot sign consents, whoever is the lawful guardian is the person who would help a disabled person, right? So these are the basic key terminologies. Then we have data fiduciary. So what is a data fiduciary? Data fiduciary is the organization or set of individuals who are defining the purpose of the process, the nature of the process, the mechanism of processing the information, right? They may not be exactly processing the information, but they are the ones who are defining how the information will be processed. It could be an individual, single person, or it could be a complete organization, it could be a complete department, depending on the size of the organization, right? We'll come to that as well. So fiduciary is the one who is responsible for defining the entire process of data processing. When it comes to significant data processing, then we are talking of larger organizations where the volume of data processing is very huge. I would call a bank a significant data processing. They are not only opening your accounts, they are sending you checkbooks, they are sending you statements, they are opening up loan accounts, credit cards, DMATs. So they are significant data fiduciary because with one set of personal information for an individual, they are doing a lot of processing of different types, and they have millions of customers. So they are doing huge data processing, and ideally they should have a complete separate department taking care of data privacy, and that is why we call it that they should have a significant data fiduciary. Now, why a specific department? Let's look at the role of a fiduciary in an organization, and we'll talk about the significant data fiduciary's responsibilities. So fiduciary is responsible for taking a clear, informed, and explicit consent from the principal. So they are responsible, for example, the bank account opening form, and you tick mark that you want to open the account. You tick mark and you say you want the checkbook to be delivered at home, yes or no. You want the bank statement status on SMS, email, physical, right? So that you are, in a way, you are giving consent on the nature by which you want your personal information to be processed. Of course, it is expected that the consent is freely given and purpose specific, and there are a lot of videos on consent on my channel. I'll tag them over here. You can go through them. They are about the overall data privacy, the way the world looks at it. Then you have providing notice. So it's the fiduciary's job to inform the data principal that I am processing your information and this is the way I am going to process it. This is my purpose of processing your information. The notice should be concise and comprehensible. In this same example, at the end of collecting all your information, there is an acknowledgement that the bank is going to use this information for opening an account for you and sending you the relevant information related to your account that you are opening there. As per the DPDP Act, the language used for a consent form and for providing the notice should be one of the languages specified in the 8th schedule of the Constitution of India. Apart from that, a fiduciary is expected to help or create the security measures, process security measures, organizational process safeguards, as well as technical ones. So when we say organizational process safeguards, how is the account opening form being collected? Where is it stored? Is it left on the table of the bank clerk where anyone is visiting and can take pictures, or is it stored in specific files and folders and lock and key and fireproof cabinets? Technical confidentiality, integrity, availability. I'll tag a video on that as well. The kind of security which avoids unauthorized access, which ensures integrity of your information is intact, and which ensures that your information is available as and when required by anyone, right? Data retention and deletion, you need to define, and the fiduciary would need to define for how long would you retain the data of a principal that you have collected, and when would you delete it. Would you delete it on withdrawal of consent? Would you delete it at the end of the purpose? Or would you retain it for say 3 months, 6 months, whatever period you think you want to retain it, but then you have to define why are you retaining it. One good reason is that it is mandated by law. I mean, you're doing a legal process. For example, bank account opening again, right? So the customer's information stays with the banker for longer time, right? So it is not that if you have opened the account or maybe even you have closed the account and the banker will delete your account related details from their repository. Right. So I think in the existing financial laws, they retain it for at least 10 years after if you close the account or the account gets dormant, and then they send this information to the Reserve Bank of India, including transfer your balance that you have not collected back in the last 10 years if the account has gone dormant, or in event of the death of the data principal who has not come back or no one has come to claim the pending amount, right? Data breach notification. So if there is a breach, if you think someone's personal information has been leaked or misused, you need to report it to the Data Protection Board of India so that appropriate action is taken. Of course, there are a lot of fines, etc. also, but then appropriate action in terms of minimizing the harm to the principal is something which is more important. If it's a children's data, you need to have a legal guardian or a parent, but also ensure that despite having a parent or a legal guardian, you are not allowed to track, monitor behavior, or do a direct advertising with the child who is less than 18 years of age. And then you need to engage with data processors. Fiduciary needs to engage with data processors, hand them over the mechanism, the processes, and ensure that they comply with the processes, they are accountable, there is a valid contract in place for all the above obligations that we have seen, because these obligations will help form the mechanism of the processing, and then the processor needs to know them and accountable for all these, both in terms of protecting you as well as in terms of compliance with the Indian DPDP Act. Fiduciary is responsible and answerable. And if in case the volume of data is high, data is highly sensitive like healthcare, and we have been talking about bank account opening, so financial information is definitely highly sensitive. So in both the cases, you need to have a significant data fiduciary, which largely means you are appointing a data protection officer. And in these cases, the Government of India or the DPDP Act says that you have an onboarded internal data protection officer. For other cases or normal data fiduciaries, you could have outsourced or taken external help. The data protection officer should conduct the data protection impact assessment. He should conduct internal and should be open for regular external audits as well. These are his additional responsibilities, apart from the responsibilities and obligations that we have spoken of in the previous slides about data fiduciary. So that's about the role of a data fiduciary and a significant data fiduciary in the Indian DPDP Act. I hope you like the content of my video, so please press the like and bell icon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already done that, and share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.